I'll certainly be fit after this morning. Our final speakers, one change to our programme. We have Declan O'Sullivan, who's accompanied by Arlene Healy, and they're both from Trinity, and again they're going to use the P word, partnership.
Good afternoon. I'm conscious that coffee is coming up, so we'll keep this tight. That's the plan. So my name is Declan O'Sullivan. I'm from Principal Investigator with the ADAPT Centre and joined today with Arlene Healy from the TCD Library. A little bit about ADAPT to give you some context. I'm a computer scientist. The ADAPT Centre is a Science Foundation Ireland funded research centre encompassing 4 universities, computer scientists from those 4 universities, ourselves in Trinity, Dublin City University, University College Dublin, and DIT. So what do we focus on? We focus on digital content and technologies around digital content. So that spans the entire spectrum of looking at content using natural language processing techniques to try and discover semantics automatically from content, and suddenly automatically as well from content, right through to translation. So taking that content and translating it into different natural languages, whether it's French or German or Irish, for example, we have a big focus on. And then taking content and saying, well, what content should you be delivering to people, given what their context is, given their preferred mode of delivery, given the physical delivery of the device they might be using. So we look into the issue of how do you personalize and slice and dice, if you like, content in a way that is suitable for an individual and adapt the content for that individual. And then we not just look at text per se, but there are different modes of delivery increasingly. Speech, audio, video, it all becomes available now to communicate information to people. And so we have a large part of our research is looking at multimodal delivery of content. And then the piece which we'll probably talk a bit more about today is how do you manage all of that process? How do you manage the data? How do you deal with privacy issues? How do you deal with rights issues? How do you deal with GDPR, for example, and so on. And so we've been engaging with the library, essentially as researchers, working with them to further our research, to further the state of the art in these areas, working with the library. So, Arlene.
Yeah, thanks, Declan. So, where does kind of the whole kind of origins of our kind of collaboration come from? Well, at a high level, thankfully, Helen Shenton, our librarian, and the director of the ADAPT Research Centre that Declan's already described, Professor Vinnie Wade is his name. They came together at a high level, I suppose, and talked about how the library and ADAPT can work together. So that's where it came about. They had interesting conversations about the library as big data and big content, which that big content kind of question is still challenging us, I think. So in the library, those of us, I suppose, working on the ground, so to speak, we were kind of really energized by this idea. I suppose we were somewhat, maybe anxious or unsure of it, I suppose, because we hadn't worked at this level. We hadn't partnered maybe with researchers in this way. And it's interesting, the title of our presentation includes the words supporting researchers. And I just wanted to kind of reflect back on some of the talks from yesterday and today, and Danny Kingsley's in particular. And I suppose what we're seeing in our partnership is this kind of, that we are true partners, maybe, and kind of expanding on this idea of supporting as well. So there's some interesting kind of ideas there. We were really interested in this kind of cross-cultural engagement, I suppose, and getting that cross-cultural experience. It was really important to us that the library isn't seen to be kind of doing things alone. We had this great group of colleagues in other parts of the college, and we weren't leveraging their expertise and their knowledge. And not alone was there an opportunity really through the ADAPT Centre to work with computer scientists, but the other members of the academic community who are working in that area, those in areas of education, psychology, in law. So bringing this group together, I suppose, in this distributed collaborative model, rather than, say, an alternative, which is for the library to kind of work internally and to establish its own research unit in the library, which again might be a model that we might aspire to, but again with funds being what they are and so on, it's not going to be possible. And I think again, the benefits of this distributed collaborative model are pretty clear as well. Vinnie, Wade and Helen often talk a lot about this kind of open innovation model as well, which we're still trying to get our heads around, but basically again it's that kind of idea of working across kind of organisational boundaries. Now, I just would flag some kind of practical kind of challenges associated with that concept. Again, libraries, we all kind of work with both kind of open systems and commercial systems, and we've had some interesting kind of conversations around some of our projects when we've had some really good ideas, but, we're limited then maybe in some ways by, what we can and can't do with particular kind of systems. So look, again, some of our kind of ideas and the benefits and kind of impact we wanted to see were leapfrogging some of the starter questions, and again, this kind of interaction and collaboration with ADAPT was going to help us do that. So again, this really kind of reflects then on the library's own strategic plan, and the kind of challenge that's put to us in that strategic plan currently around catalysing kind of research. How do we do that? And it also speaks to our kind of aims to improve the user experience. So just moving to that then, we have two major kind of research questions that we've identified. Now, if you read through these, they're not going to be kind of any surprise to you. These are all kind of areas of kind of interest and areas of research that we're kind of all working on, I guess, in some ways, or at least thinking about them, I should say. So the first one really speaks to kind of what we could summarize as being kind of the user experience strand. So again, interface development, how can we kind of leverage, personalization, recommendation systems, all these kinds of things to improve the user experience. And again, I think I just want to also kind of come back to some of the topics that we've touched on in this conference around, whether we're making it kind of easy or not for our kind of users, researchers, staff and students to kind of find our information, and what are we doing about that? Danny mentioned in her talk about, colleagues talking about it not being easy to find, information, and the reverting to the other kind of methods. Well, what can we do to improve that experience and to help researchers? And the second research question then speaks to kind of, I suppose, the metadata side of things. I think maybe at this point it's a good idea to hand back to Declan, because you're going to describe some of the kind of projects that we're working on under these two main threads.
So I'm conscious of time. I've just got the 3 minutes. Just in terms of how we're engaging with the library, how do we actually physically do it? We engage through students, working with students, final year students, projects, for example, undergraduates, master's students. We've had several master's dissertations, computer science, working with the library on their dissertations in particular areas. PhD students, you'll hear from one of those later on in the next session, and postdoctoral researchers as well, and again later on you'll hear from one of those. So the kind of projects, ongoing projects that we have are in that, reflects those two research questions. One being, well, how do you improve the user experience and getting at information? And the second being, how do you basically use technologies like linked data to help improve the metadata creation process and to link it into other authoritative sources of data that you may want to expose. So we have two talks later on in the next session, each reflecting those. Unfortunately, they're in two parallel sessions. But so if you're interested in those kind of topics in the area of uplift and metadata, go and see Lucy McKenna's talk. If you're interested in looking at how we've been working with linked data and working with the library in that area, go and see Christophe de Bruyn's talk. The key thing, though, to take away from this is really we are not doing this out of the good of our, in that sense, our willingness or our happiness just to be collegial and so on. these projects that we engage in really look at advancing computer science. So it's self-interest in terms of advancing state-of-the-art in that area. And the library, in that sense, provides us really, as one of the slides, I don't think you actually called it out, real people, real problem, real insights, and real expertise. And it gives us an amazing context in which to advance their state-of-the-art. So where are we going? We're doing really well, successful up to now in terms of our partnership. We're very pleased about how well it's been going. But the partnership continues and in fact is starting to deepen. We've had a recent appointment of a computer science lecturer who for the first time in the college history will be jointly mentored not only by a computer scientist but by the librarian in TCD, Helen Shenton. And so we see this as a way of helping to really bed in the partnership. The second part here is to note that college also is very aware that the whole idea of big content provides a wonderful theme in which it can gather together the disciplines and the library in order to make progress in basically the disciplines and promoting research within college. And that is it's emerging as part of one of the key research themes as part of the next strategic plan coming out of college. So, in summary, what I'd say is the partnership has been taking a bit of commitment, it's taken time, it's taken patience, but it is being successful. Like any partnership, it has its ups and downs, right? But in the words of a famous political party, there's been a lot done, but more to do. Thank you.